Let's get into some suburbs of the Central Coast that are worth investing in. And I'm going to start with one that's under 800k. And I know previously I actually was saying right down to about 700 to 750, but those just don't exist anymore. And it's because the market's off its bottom. We got all these incentives coming in. But the first suburb I'll start with, I have mentioned it before, and thankfully there is still slightly some dwellings actually available in it, and that suburb is Canwall. So look, Canwall is predominantly a residential suburb. It's pretty much all detached houses, similar to what you can see here. Really, the thing about Canwall you need to know is it's a suburb that's been there for a number of years. So the estate was built like 30 or so years ago, and basically it was all sold off pretty much straight away. They're all very well built, pretty much all brick, veneer and tile homes in the original estate of Canwall. So very well built. Not only that too, but because of that, you've got actually quite long-standing existing resident population. So a lot of these people either have very low LVRs on their actual properties, or there are quite a few that also own them outright. Look, for investment as well, you get 4% yield quite comfortably here as well. So that's another good thing, I guess. But look, the biggest thing about Canwall is it's very, very well located, really there to basically all the future employment hubs and things going on. So if you just look here at basically this map, you'll see the word Hamlin Terrace. It's just kind of, I'd just say, a touch on the sort of southeast of that. So if you want to go bottom right of it, it's just a touch towards the sort of, actually, if you just go south of the E of Hamlin Terrace, that's where it is. Those kind of pinky sort of things there, those are kind of industrial areas that are being built up in the Central Coast. The actual blue is also mixed blue, like white collar jobs with blue collar jobs as well. And the other thing there as well is you got to remember Tuggerah and Wyong are also parts of the transport orientated plan, and they're also where the actual, should I say, express trains to Sydney and Newcastle go. So this suburb really is close to all things that are going on there, and it's an existing suburb that is already built. So there's not really any new estates that are built in Canwall. It's pretty much all built. And I mean, it's only about probably a 15-minute drive to Nora Head, which is a lifestyle area. And it's also, I mean, it fronts the lake too, so you could call that a lifestyle area too. And it's only probably about 25 minutes or so from the entrance, maybe about 35 to Terrigal. So it's close to basically everything you need. There's some decent high-end public schools there. It's not overly far from some Catholic schools either. So you got everything you kind of need there. And having employment hubs and also the transport there, this is one of those suburbs where I was discussing with everyone, it being a key to the development of the Central Coast. So that's a good suburb for under 800k in Canwall. Look, if we get into under 900k, I would say the best suburb you could consider is Killarney Vale. Look, it's not overly far. It borders on the southern sort of shorelines of Tuggerah Lake. It looks like this. This is just by the lakeside of Wyong Road there. So this is what it kind of looks like. You actually have homes in this area now that are selling for close to $2 million, believe it or not. So that would have never been thought of years ago in Killarney Vale, but today it is. So well done to that, I guess. But really, Killarney, the first thing you need to say is similar to Canwall, it's very well located. So if you think of where generally the most expensive suburbs are in every city, it's generally between the lifestyle areas and the employment. So if you think of Sydney, you think of the most expensive suburbs, Bellevue Hill, Point Piper, right in between literally Bondi Beach and also the CBD. You think of Melbourne, it's kind of like Chirac, Elwood, probably St Kilda West, right in between Brighton, which is the probably main lifestyle area, and the CBD. You even think of like Perth, where all the expensive suburbs are. Like, you got Mossman Park, Dalkeith, all those sorts of suburbs down there, Peppermint Grove, Claremont, all really expensive, right in between Cottesloe / sort of City Beach and the CBD, very similar. So, the main transport corridors really of the Central Coast is pretty much I'd say your Tuggerah, Wyong to the entrance / Terrigal, and then it's also your Gosford to sort of Terrigal / Avoca. Those are your two biggest sort of corridors that are going. You could probably include Lake Haven in that Wyong kind of Tuggerah area too, but Killarney's literally situated right in between those areas. So Shelley Beach is one of the most beautiful beaches in the Central Coast, which is 5 minutes away. and Terrigal and also the entrance are both about 15 or so minutes away. So it's close to everything. You got the high schools, the primary schools there too. So it's quite good. Like a lot of the public housing was sold off here about 15 to 20 years ago too. So there's only about 6 or 7% left here. And it's all basically in that Barrow Bay pocket out the back of Barrow Bay Hill. But you'll see that just here as well with the improving demographics of the suburb. So on top here, you have the 2006, then you have the 2021. So you'll see 735 weekly household income, median weekly household income, mortgage repayments at 1404 monthly, and then it's gone to 1524, 1907. So that ratio has completely, should I say, shortened. So it's gentrified quite a bit. And I'm telling you right now, in 2021, it probably hit the peak in about 2022. It's kind of stabilized since then. So it hasn't really done overly too much, maybe 10% you could argue, but the income has gone up significantly since then. So you'll see that over this time, it'll continue, that ratio continue to get better and better and better, because there's a percentage of people that have very low LVRs and also own their homes outright here too. And that will only continue. Very good suburb in that. There's a lot of new build homes going up in particular streets of Killarney Vale as well. So that's going to push the suburb median up a lot. So great one to consider. Look, the median is above 900,000. It's about 930,000 at the moment. But I'm telling you, I'm still picking up stuff here for under 900,000. So it's a great deal for under 900K in Killarney Vale. Look, going under $1 million, again, it's actually quite hard to pick out suburbs for this because there's quite a few that are, good, that are slightly above $1 million. And this one here is probably about $1,050,000 at the moment if you look online. But I'm still picking up stuff for under $1 million here. So it is realistic. And that suburb is East Gosford. So like its name says, and you can see in the photo here, you can see just a Central Coast Stadium there. East Gosford is pretty much just to the left of that point there. So that point there is Point Frederick. It's kind of the Point Piper, I'd say, of the Central Coast. That's where Point Frederick is. East Gosford is just kind of the left of that. So it is, pretty much right near the CBD. And it's right in the key corridor kind of between the most expensive suburb of the Central Coast, which is Point Frederick, Gosford, which is the main sort of hub of the Central Coast, and also Eriner's kind of your main fare and distribution kind of area of the Central Coast too. And then, you go straight down the road, you hit Terrigal and Avoca. It's only about 15, 20 minutes away, depending on where you are in the suburb. If you're up the hill, it might take a little bit longer. So that's East Gosford. And look, where it is really is, I don't think anyone would debate me on this. It is exceptionally located in the suburb. You can see where it is there, as I said, just to the left, because we were looking sort of south from the top there. But in this image here, it's just right of Point Frederick there. Occupies a waterfront location. It's all entirely built. There's not really any land to build there. Not only that, too, you're quite close to Central Coast Grammar School as well. And you've got the waterfronts there that do push up the prices quite a bit. A lot of development stock that is developable as well. So you have wealthy developers, particularly from Sydney, that do go up here, particularly from the north, because it's not overly far of a drive from there. If you're in Hornsby, East Gosford's probably only about a 40-minute drive or so. So they do actually, Sydney side of developers do actually venture over here. So it's definitely, a good suburb to consider for those reasons. So, for under $1 million, East Gosford's good. Good demographics too. That's only going to increase. So, definitely a great one to consider for under $1 million. Let's get it under $1.25 million. And I mentioned this suburb in the past, but I'll mention it again, and that is Bateau Bay. Look, the overhead of here, you can just see this is from basically the top of Bateau Bay. So this is just looking down towards Shelley Beach, which I think is one of the most beautiful beaches in the Central Coast. Probably I'd call it the mid part of the Central Coast. It is probably the most famous one there. It's probably known as being the best surf beaches of the mid part of the Central Coast. But really, Bateau Bay is, mind you, I was saying under $1.25 million here, but really, on the right part of Bateau Bay, you're still picking it up for really like 1.1 kind of flat. You can pick up a perfectly good house for that. So, it's really quite close to that, but I'd still put it under 1.25 because the premier ones are probably towards that and sometimes even above. But really, where it is, it's extremely cheap for how it's positioned. So it's cheap amongst very expensive suburbs. So, here you can see where Bateau Bay is, and then you can see Foresters Beach under it's close to 1.5. Shelley's about 1.7 to give you an idea. And it's basically really cheap for where it is, really, really cheap. But the thing you need to know is you need to buy on the right side or ocean side of the Central Coast Highway there. on the hillside of Bacho Bay, there's quite a lot of public housing. It's basically known as Penrith by the Sea for most people that live in the Central Coast or have been around there. It is quite dodgy, some parts of the hillside, but the actual ocean side of the Central Coast Highway there is perfectly good. It's the same. It's basically the same as, Shelley Beach or Foresters. Maybe not Foresters, because Foresters feels a little bit more off-grid than probably Bacho Bay or Shelley, but it's very similar to Shelley Beach, the beach side of that. So definitely a good one to consider in saying that. The demographics in that area as well have improved quite a lot too. So, you're not going to make any mistakes buying in that part of Bacho Bay, should I say. Really good one to consider. Also, you have kind of like it's walking distance to the beach, nice sort of park area. You got, the caravan park there. Shelley Beach Surf Club is just popular amongst people. And it's a 10-minute drive kind of either way to kind of probably 10 to 15 to the entrance or Terrigal either side, so it's good for that. And obviously being near the water, you have homes that do push up the price here too. So that's my pick for under 1.25 million in the Central Coast. Look, we're getting to the more top end of the Central Coast, so that we're at under 1.5 million now. And what's kind of happened here with this suburb is that it's kind of had, I'd say, a little bit of just a minor correction. There's reasons for that, but the funny thing is even when that happens, it's the real true median of this suburb's probably more like 1.7 to 1.8, but there is some idiot agents that do tend to sell properties for just what the median says because they're lazy. So I've been picking up stuff in these kinds of areas for actually a flat 1.5 or slightly under 1.45 to 1.5, and that suburb is north of Oka. So look, north of Oka, it's just south of Terrigal. It occupies a very nice kind of little seaside pocket, I'd say, just on the inside, the southern inside of the actual Terrigal headland there. It looks like this. Basically, as you can see in this photo, this actual suburb as well, it's a very good surf location, should I say, like you can see here, very popular, good board riders clubs there, good beach. You can walk down the beach to Avoca Beach as well, around the lagoon there too. So, for that as well, it's really good. But north of Oka hit, I think it was like 2.2 or 2.3 mil at one point. It's because it has properties in here that sell for like 8 mil plus that are beachfront. Those beachfront dwellings you can see. Those ones kind of, they're very expensive. And the issue is when you have a minor correction, the market slows down a little bit. What kind of happens is that the people who own their homes outright and own those massive mansions, they just don't sell their homes. It's just kind of what happens. So it brings the median in the suburb right down. But when the market goes up, what then happens is they sell their homes, so it brings the median in the suburb right up because north of Oka isn't a very large suburb. So what happens there is you have major swings between what the median says online, but the true median that, if I'm being honest with you, it's probably 1.7 to 1.8, but you have idiot agencies who can't price these properly, and I am still picking up stuff for under, so it is achievable. But the biggest draw card really of, I'd say, north of Oka is it's kind of like a village-like local community by the sea. So this is just what it kind of looks like right by the seaside there. So as you can see, really beautiful. There's your beachfront homes. The surf club's quite popular. There's a few little, should I say, cafe/restaurants along there too, but it just feels very towny and very beautiful. And Terrigal, which is your home of the Central Coast, really is literally just over the hill. So it's quite easy to get around. It's not overly far to get into Gosford or Erina either, should I say. So, that's a good thing for the suburb, and there's quite a high median income here and a lot of long-term residents. Quite a few people have owned here for a number of years. There's been a lot of these good homes have been passed down generation to generation. So that's kind of what's going on there. So look, it's a great suburb to consider if you've got about 1.5 million or so. Look, even if you had to pay slightly over, but you got a premier location of north of Oak, it's still worth it because that location would absolutely go up astonishingly when the market picks back up, because these beachfront ones will start to sell for godly sums of money. So that's just something to consider as well in north of Oka for under 1.5 million. Look, I'm getting to the very top end of the Central Coast, and funny enough, I'm not even going to pick the most expensive suburbs in the coast here. This is for any budget, and this suburb's probably maybe 1.55 to 1.6 median, but I mean, I can still pick them up for under 1.5 quite comfortably, even 1.3, believe it or not. And that suburb is Terrigal. So when people think of the Central Coast, they generally think of two or three locations. They generally think of Terrigal, Gosford, or generally the entrance. That's what they think of when they think of the Central Coast in New South Wales. So look, the beachfront of Terrigal, really, it's kind of like one of the centres of the Central Coast, and it looks like this. This is just upon a sunrise, beautiful. You can see the boardwalk along the, should I say, coastline or cliff line there. Really beautiful. It's quite a safe kind of location there as well in Terrigal. It gets a bit more wavy towards Wanneroo because you've got the headland that protects it. So you do have the boat ramp there, and I'd say it's kind of like a kiddies corner beach there too, quite flat. More towards Wanneroo, the waves are a little bit bigger, but really, I don't think you really need to say too much about Terrigal. It's really the heart of the Central Coast. And this is just an article from Domain, why many Sydney-siders are moving to Terrigal on the Central Coast. Once seen as the sleepy village for summer holiday goers, the Terrigal and Avoca Beach area is fast becoming an alternate away from the city confines, and that's a pretty good way to describe it. You actually have quite a few wealthy people that live in Terrigal now. I mean, I know quite a few people hit there who are actually CEOs and do other kind of high end roles, even quite like wealthy business owners that actually live in Terrigal, Wamberal, Avoca, those kinds of areas. And of the lot of them, Terrigal is actually the cheapest, believe it or not. So that's really good. The land is actually quite scarce as well towards the water there too. And you don't really, there is actually employment in Terrigal's when it goes basically straight up through Erina to Gosford there as well. So you don't really need to do too much if you live in Terrigal. It's quite a good location. I mean, good for families. The Central Coast Grammar School is close to it too. You've got good primary and high schools near it as well. So no one really has to go too far in Terrigal. Like, it's only about, and depending on how far you need to go, 15 minutes to about half an hour, depending on the traffic to get into Gosford. And where you live in the suburb too. So that's kind of Terrigal. Look, it is probably my pick of the Central Coast, and for obvious reasons. It'll continue to go up, and also there's a lot of demand from developers, particularly close by to the town centre. There is some quite larger development apartment blocks going up, and there's even penthouse apartments here that sell for like $2 and $3 million now. So that was never heard of on the Central Coast a number of years ago, but that's some of the money that's actually coming in. So look, that's my pick of the suburbs of the Central Coast. You've got about 1.5 to 1.6 million. Really good one in that. And not only that too, but that's my summary of all the Central Coast suburbs.